Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a really intriguing idea from Neville Goddard.
Ah, yes, The Art of Dying, from that lecture back in, what, March 59?
That's the one. And, right off the bat, it's important to say this isn't about physical death. Not at all.
No, definitely not. He's using dying much more like a metaphor.
Exactly. It's a psychological process, like shedding old habits, old ways of thinking, unwanted states.
So you can actually step into and, well, live in the states you do want, like upgrading yourself.
Right. So we're drawing on his lectures and writings, mostly stuff you can find online.
And the goal really is to get our heads around this idea. How does this metaphorical dying work as a tool for, like, real personal change?
Yeah. Based on his whole philosophy, his take on the Bible, the power of imagination.
Which really starts with his core belief, doesn't it? This idea that God and humans are fundamentally one.
Mm-hmm. And that our imagination isn't just wishful thinking. He saw it as the actual power of God operating in us.
The only difference being, sort of, the intensity, how focused and powerful our imagining is.
So the stronger you imagine, the more real it becomes.
That's the core idea. Realizing any dream is basically about dialing up the intensity of your imagination, feeling it fully.
Okay, so how does dying fit in? He quotes Paul, "I die daily," and Blake talking about how long it takes people to die and nobody sees them rise. What's that about?
Well, Goddard reads that symbolically. It's not about literally dying every day, but constantly needing to outgrow the parts of ourselves we don't want anymore.
Like limiting beliefs or being stuck in a state like poverty, for instance.
Exactly. If you stay fixed in the state of being poor, you inevitably live out the consequences of, well, not being wealthy.
Just you suffer the lack.
Right.
Yo.
So learning this art of dying to those unwanted states becomes, for Goddard, essential if you want to move forward.
He uses that story about Moses' death, Deuteronomy 34, as a kind of map for this, doesn't he?
He really does. It's a fantastic analogy for the whole process. Moses leading the people right to the edge, but not going in himself.
Yeah, what's the significance there? Walk us through Goddard's interpretation.
Okay, so first, Moses. The name itself can mean to lift up or draw out of. And backwards in Hebrew, it relates to I am.
So Moses represents our own consciousness, the I am, drawing something out.
Drawing potential out of ourselves, essentially. Then there's Moab, where they start. It means mother, father, like the womb, the starting condition you want to leave behind.
Okay, the current state. Then he climbs Mount Nebo.
Right. Nebo means to prophesy. It represents the subjective state you're aiming for, the thing you desire. Climbing it is the act of, vividly imagining it.
Getting into that future state in your mind.
Mm-hmm. And from Nebo, he sees Pisgah. Pisgah means to contemplate.
So really dwelling on it, feeling it.
Exactly. Immersing yourself in thinking from that desired state. And he looks out over Gilead, the hills of witnesses.
Witnesses, like evidence.
Kind of like the signs or feelings that confirm the shift inside you. And then he sees Jericho, which means a fragrant odor.
Ah, the smell of success, the feeling of satisfaction.
Precisely. That sensory confirmation, the feeling that it is done, the wish fulfilled.
But the crucial part, you said, is that Moses doesn't enter the promised land. He dies, and no one knows where he's buried.
Yes. This is key for Goddard. The old state, the Moses that represented the journey out of the old limitation, has to completely disappear. It has to die.
So the new reality can be born.
Exactly. The new state takes over. And the person who has transformed is, in a way, unrecognizable to those who only knew the old limitations. The old self is buried and unknown.
But there's that line, his eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated.
Right. That's vital. Even though the old state dies, the power behind it, the power of imagination, the core I am is undiminished. It's still there, ready to create the next state.
So the creative force remains constant.
Absolutely. It's the tool you use for the whole process. It doesn't get used up.
So this dying, it's not passive. It's an active thing we do.
Very active. It's about consciously letting go of what your senses are telling you right now.
The current reality.
And completely yielding, surrendering to the feeling of the desired state within your imagination. Even if it feels, well, a bit crazy.
Like madness, as he sometimes puts it.
Yes. Because you're choosing an inner reality over the outer evidence for a moment. And actually enacting that desired state in your mind, feeling it real, that is the death blow to the old state.
He connects this to crucifixion and resurrection, doesn't he?
He does. The crucifixion is metaphorically nailing yourself, your attention, your feeling onto that desired state, holding it firm.
And the resurrection.
That's the inevitable result, the desired state appearing, becoming solid in your external world. But you need that complete abandonment to the dream first. No holding back.
This seems to link up with William Blake's idea about states being permanent structures and we just move through them.
Exactly. Goddard often referenced Blake on this. The idea is all states, poverty, wealth, health, sickness already exist as possibilities.
And we just occupy one at a time.
We occupy one, and if we stay there, identify with it, it feels like the only reality. We get sort of stuck.
Which limits what we think is possible.
Completely. And this view has implications for how we interact with others, too.
Right. You mentioned helping others. How does imagining someone differently actually help them? They don't even need to know.
According to Goddard, no. Because consciousness is fundamental. If you consistently see someone in your imagination as being healthy or successful or whatever they desire,
You're essentially nudging them towards that state.
you're contributing to the reality of that state for them, yes. Because by focusing on their desired state, you stop giving energy, your mental attention, to their unwanted state.
So ceasing to behold the negative state helps it to, what did he say? Get burned up.
Yeah, it fades from view, loses its power in your reality and potentially theirs because you're no longer feeding it with your belief and attention.
It makes sense, but it feels like we humans naturally cling to the familiar, even if it's uncomfortable. That recurrence thing.
Oh, definitely. There's a certain security and predictability, even if the prediction is negative. Change feels risky.
So choosing to die to a familiar, even lousy state takes real conscious effort. It goes against the grain.
It really does. It requires overriding that comfort zone instinct. But Goddard keeps bringing it back to that core principle.
Your imagination is God.
Exactly. If you accept that premise, then using your imagination deliberately isn't being greedy or unrealistic. It's fulfilling your function.
Operating as the creator you fundamentally are.
Right. Wanting things to bring them forth, that's natural. But the key is...
You have to yield to the state. Let it take on flesh.
Yes. Feel it real, embody it inwardly until it solidifies outwardly. It requires that inner conviction.
This sounds like it connects to his idea of revision, too, changing the past.
Absolutely. Revision is a powerful application of this. That image he uses, turning the great wheel backward until Troy unburns.
That's such a striking image. It suggests the past isn't fixed.
Not in its effect on us anyway. He tells that story about the woman who revised burning her hand, right?
Yeah, she replayed the scene in her mind but changed the outcome, felt her hand being fine, and the physical effects lessened or vanished.
Exactly. She intensely imagined a different past moment, and it impacted her present physical state. It points to this idea that past and present aren't rigidly separate.
They're part of a larger now.
In a way, yes.
Well,
which gives us leverage over experiences we thought were set in stone.
okay, another analogy he uses is finding that colt on which no man ever sat, tied up where two ways meet.
Ah, yes, that's a great one. The colt represents a new state of consciousness, one you haven't ridden before, haven't fully embodied.
And it's tied where two ways meet, the crossroads between your current self and the desired self.
Precisely. It's available but unused. And when you first try to ride it, embody that new feeling.
It feels unnatural.
Awkward. Totally. It might feel fake, even wrong. Your reason, your current self, might resist it strongly. That's the colt bucking.
But you have to persist. Ride it into Jerusalem.
Yes. Jerusalem symbolizing a higher state. Peace. The goal achieved. You have to gently persist in assuming that new feeling until it becomes natural.
And this ties into heaven not being someplace far away.
Right. Heaven, for Goddard, is simply a state of consciousness. And the desired state, the heaven you seek, is always right next to your current one. Contiguous.
Just a shift in awareness away.
Just a shift. But making that shift permanent requires, again, that death to the current self, that full abandonment to the dream.
He also briefly touches on religion itself, defining it as being tied or devoted to something.
Which is an interesting take. Basically, whatever state you consistently return to in your thoughts and feelings, that's your religion, what you're devoted to.
So if you're devoted to, say, worry or lack and you don't like it,
then you need to consciously shift your devotion, your focus, your feeling to a more desirable state. Yield to that one instead.
He also mentions conflict arising from this.
Yeah, because states interpenetrate. As you move into a new state, it can create friction with old patterns or assumptions. But he sees this as part of growth.
Conflict leads to reconciliation, and then you move on.
Essentially. And he notes that all states are transient. Even a desired state, a heaven, will eventually become familiar, maybe even limiting in time, prompting another death, and move to a new state.
So it's a continuous cycle of growth, living in a state, resolving its issues, dying to it, moving on.
Exactly. For awakening, for becoming more conscious, it's a dynamic process, not a final destination.
Okay, so summing this up then, this art of dying isn't morbid at all. It's really a mental discipline, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's about consciously choosing which identity, which state of being you want to embody.
And using your imagination intentionally to let go of the old and embrace the new.
Drawing on these biblical allegories as guides and grounded in that fundamental belief in our own creative power.
The takeaway seems to be that we're not stuck. We have the power to change our reality by learning to die to what we no longer wish to be.
Precisely. It shifts us from feeling like victims of circumstance to being, the architects of our experience, mastering that art of letting go.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about one area in your life you'd really like to transform. What is the old self or the old belief associated with that? What would need to die, psychologically speaking, for you to step into that new reality?
And more importantly, perhaps, what would it feel like right now to actually be that person living that desired reality, even just for a moment in your imagination?
That feeling is the key. But that's certainly something to contemplate. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.